We've been working for a few days now with slope by intercept form for a linear function. So you should recognize that y equals mx plus b and be able to tell me which of those letters represents the slope. The m is the slope. And which one represents the y-intercept? The b is the y-intercept. So anytime you have an equation y equals mx plus b, and m and b are numbers, they represent the slope and the y-intercept. X and y are always just going to stay as x and y because they're telling you what two variables are being related. But that you should already know. So if I give you a question like this, state the slope and y-intercept and sketch the graph. What's the slope here? -2. The number in front of the x, right? And what's the y-intercept? 1. The number on its own. So then if I want to graph it, start at 1 on the y-axis, which would be right there. And from there, what do I do? Count down 2 and over 1 to the right. So that'll be the next point, right? And then count down 2 and over 1 again, and you can do that a whole bunch of times. And you end up with this straight line. Join those points together, and that gives you the graph of that linear function. You should use a ruler to do it and put arrows on the end. That's the graph of y equals -2x plus 1. Why do I add the arrows to the end? Because it keeps going. We're just looking at one little piece of the graph, but it actually keeps going forever. So there's what it looks like. Here's a different one. Same thing. Number 2. So same instruction from number 1. State the slope and y-intercept and sketch the graph. But this one looks a little bit different. This says 2x plus 4y equals 8. How do we know what the slope is if it doesn't look like y equals mx plus b? It's the one that what? It's the one in front of the x when it's in slope-intercept form. Yeah, but this isn't in slope-intercept form. How are we going to fix that? Can we, isolate the y. Put it in slope-intercept form. Get the y by itself in that equation, and then you'll be able to tell what the slope and y-intercept is. So to do that, there's the y. It has a 4 with it. That's okay. I want to get rid of the stuff that's with the y. So what do I need to do with the 2x? Subtract it from both sides, right? So we'll go -2x, -2x. It cancels out there. We're left with 4y equals -2x plus 8. We subtracted the 2x, so it's negative on the right-hand side. -2x plus 8. Now do we know what the slope is? Still not? What do we have to do?
Take up the 4.
Get rid of the 4. And it's multiplied by the y, so how do we get rid of it? Divide. We're going to divide everything by 4.
Yeah. Everything?
Everything, every term by 4. So we're left with y equals -2 over 4x, which reduces to -1/2 x, plus 8 over 4, which is actually equal to 2. Now we have the equation in slope by intercept form. Now we can say what the slope is. What's the slope? -1/2. What's the y-intercept? 2. And we can graph it. Go to 2 on the y-axis. Oops, I'm a little off there. And then down 1 to the right 2 for -1/2. And we end up with this line. Sorry, my hand slipped there, but you get the idea. x plus 3y equals negative 3. We need to do the same thing. Get the y by itself. Isolating the y puts it in slope-intercept form. So I need to get that x out of there, and I'll do it by subtracting. Subtract x from both sides. I end up with 3y equals negative x minus 3. You could say negative 3 minus x, but we're used to seeing the x before the constant, so that's why I put the x in the front. Then we need to divide by 3. Make sure you divide each term by 3. And we get y equals negative x over 3. We're actually going to write that as negative 1/3 x. And then negative 3 over 3 is negative 1. And then we can answer the question, which is, what is the slope? Negative 1/3. What is the y-intercept? Negative 1. And make a graph. Negative 1 on the y-axis. Slope is negative 1/3, means go down 1 to the right 3. And we'll do that a couple of times to get that line. Oops, that should be going through right there. First thing you did was add 5 to both sides. So you end up with this. Then what you're going to want to do is expand this. Multiply that negative 4 through that bracket. Expand that, multiply it through. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. And then just combine like terms. So we get y equals negative 4x plus 9. And that's kind of hard to graph on here because my graph is not big enough. Because I'm going to start way up there and then count down 4 over 1. Down 4 over 1, and so on. It's not too bad. There's the line.